Hey everyone, ready for a deep dive into something really interesting?
I'm ready.
Great. Today we're going to be talking about workflows. And before you tune out thinking, ugh, technical jargon, trust me, this one's for everyone.
Oh yeah, workflows are way more common than people realize.
Exactly. So we're using this transcript about programming with PowerBASIC as a starting point.
PowerBASIC.
Yeah, I know it seems a little niche, but the ideas behind it, the core concepts, they apply way beyond just coding. Basically, think of workflows as like those invisible threads connecting actions together in a sequence.
Okay, I like that.
Like, just think about the steps in making your morning coffee.
Or putting together furniture?
Yes, those are everyday workflows. And we've got an expert here to help break it all down. So tell me, what exactly is PowerBASIC, and how does this transcript use it to explain workflows?
Great question. You're right. PowerBASIC might sound like, I don't know, something from a bygone era of computing.
Right.
And in a way, it is, but that's kind of what makes it so useful for understanding workflows. It really encourages this like clear step-by-step approach to programming.
I see. I see.
Yeah, and the transcript uses this example of a new start form.
Okay.
Imagine like a new employee joining a company. There's so much that needs to happen, right? Getting a laptop, system access, ID cards, all of that.
Oh, yeah.
Without a well-defined workflow, this process, they can just become a nightmare.
Totally.
Delays, confusion, it's a mess.
Yeah.
So this new start form, it's not just about collecting data, right?
Right.
It's like the trigger that sets a whole chain of events in motion.
Okay, I'm starting to see where this is going. It's not about the form itself. It's about this whole process it kicks off. But how does PowerBASIC handle that? What does that code actually look like?
Good point. Let's make it like more concrete.
Yeah.
Imagine a line of PowerBASIC code that says, if new hire form is submitted, then send email to IT department. Yeah, it's a simple example, but it shows how the code itself defines those steps and triggers in the workflow. And here's where it gets really interesting. PowerBASIC, a lot of times it includes things like audit trails in its workflows.
Audit trails.
Yeah.
Now we're usually thinking about those with like finance and stuff.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But the principle's the same, tracking each action, who took it, the whole 9 yards.
That's fascinating. So even in the coding, there's this understanding that actions have consequences. It's like a programming receipt. It's not just what happens, but who does it and when.
Precisely. That's a key element of workflows in general, transparency, accountability. But it's more than just tracking. Think about how understanding these steps, it can help you spot those bottlenecks, those holdups.
Right. It's like mapping out all the stations on a train route. You can then see where those delays are happening. But it seems like we've been talking a lot about this new start example.
Sure.
Is that really the only way to think about workflows? I mean, are there different types?
Excellent question, because you're absolutely right. Workflows come in different flavors.
Different flavors, okay.
Each one's suited for different tasks.
Okay.
We can dig into those next.
Different flavors of workflows, huh?
Exactly.
Okay, I'm intrigued. So what kind of variety are we talking about here?
Well, you've got your linear workflows. Those are like
Yeah.
our new start example.
Okay.
A straight path, start to finish.
Okay.
Each step triggers the next, nice and straightforward.
Like following a recipe.
Exactly.
Okay. But things aren't always that linear, are they?
You got it. And that's where parallel workflows come in.
Parallel workflows.
Yeah. Imagine multiple things happening all at the same time.
Oh, okay.
Like ordering food online,
Okay.
the restaurant's preparing your meal, the delivery driver's heading to the restaurant, and you're, eagerly waiting for that notification that it's on its way.
Yeah.
3 separate paths,
Yeah.
all happening in parallel.
Oh, that's a good example. And I'm guessing there are even more specialized types of workflows out there.
Definitely. There's also conditional workflows.
Conditional.
Yeah, where the path changes based on certain conditions.
Okay.
Think about those automated emails you get. If you like this product, you might like this one too.
Right.
That's a conditional workflow, deciding what to show you based on your past behavior.
It's like those choose your own adventure books,
Exactly.
but for real life.
Right.
Wow. We're surrounded by workflows.
They're everywhere. Once you start noticing them, you see them everywhere.
Everywhere.
But regardless of the type, the beauty of a well-defined workflow, even a simple one, is that it brings us back to those universal benefits we were talking about before.
Oh, right, right.
Like increased efficiency.
Right, like those assembly lines we were talking about. Speaking of which, how do workflows actually achieve that? Is it really just about breaking down tasks into smaller steps?
Well, that's a big part of it, yeah. But it's also about optimizing those steps.
Okay.
Like a well-oiled machine. Each part of the workflow should flow seamlessly into the next room, with minimal friction, no wasted effort.
So it's about identifying and eliminating those bottlenecks,
Exactly.
finding the slow spots in the process and streamlining them.
Forgot it.
Okay.
And this is where understanding the individual components of a workflow can be really helpful.
Yeah.
Think of it like this. You've got your inputs. Those are like the raw materials or information that kick off the workflow.
Right.
Then you've got the steps themselves, the actions that transform those inputs.
Yep.
And then finally, you have your outputs, the desired results or outcomes.
So inputs, steps, outputs, like our recipe. You start with ingredients. That's your input. You
Yep.
follow the instructions. Those are your steps. And you end up with a delicious cake. That's your output.
I like the way you think.
But even with the best recipe, things can still go wrong,
Oh,
right?
yeah. That's very true. And that brings us to the second major benefit of well-defined workflows, reduced errors.
Reduced errors, right.
Remember those approval steps in our PowerBASIC example?
Yes, yes.
Those act as checkpoints within the workflow. It's a place to catch mistakes before they snowball into bigger problems.
It's like having a safety net, a chance to double-check everything before moving on to the next stage.
But how does this work in more complex workflows, like with those parallel paths?
Does each path need its own set of checks and balances?
That's a great question. And it highlights how important it is to design workflows carefully, considering those potential points of failure and building in safeguards at each stage.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean it has to be overly complex.
Right.
Even simple checkpoints can make a world of difference.
So we've got increased efficiency, we've got reduced errors. What about that third benefit you mentioned, improved collaboration? Where does that come in?
Well, you could think of a workflow almost like a roadmap for a team.
Okay.
When everyone understands their roles, the steps involved, who's responsible for what, it, eliminates so much confusion, and it just fosters this smoother, more efficient way of working together.
Yeah, it's like that old saying, teamwork makes the dream work.
Exactly.
But seriously, that shared understanding, it's so important. It's amazing how often things just fall apart because people aren't on the same page.
Yeah, absolutely. And it goes beyond just, avoiding confusion. Workflows can actually highlight opportunities for collaboration that maybe we didn't even see before.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, by mapping out each step, we might find new ways to connect with colleagues in other departments, or even automate tasks that used to be manual handoffs.
Right, right. It's all about finding those connections. Okay, you've convinced me workflows are amazing, but I gotta be honest, I'm not always the most organized person.
Sure.
Do I have to become some kind of productivity robot to actually benefit from this kind of thinking?
That's a great point. And that's something, I even think about in my own work.
Yeah.
You don't have to overthink it.
Okay.
Start by just looking for one small thing you can improve. Maybe it's how you manage your emails or how you organize your to-do list.
Right.
Applying a little bit of workflow thinking, it can be as simple as identifying tasks you do over and over again.
Yeah.
And then finding ways to streamline them.
That makes sense. It's not about overhauling your entire life. It's just about those little areas where a bit more structure could help.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's working smarter, not harder.
Right, right.
And remember, those small changes, they can have a ripple effect,
Yeah.
freeing up your time and energy for the things that really matter.
I love that. Work smarter, not harder. This whole conversation has been eye-opening for me. I came in thinking workflows were just for, programmers, big corporations.
Right.
But they're really everywhere.
They are.
And they can make our lives a little easier.
Absolutely. It's all about perspective, right?
Yeah.
Once you start seeing the world through that workflow lens,
Yeah.
you start to notice all these hidden processes driving everything around us.
It's true.
And, who knows? Maybe you'll even be inspired to create some of your own.
Make your own workflows, yeah. Well, on that note, I think it's time to challenge our listeners to do just that. Think about a process in your own life. It could be big or small that could use a little optimization. How could you apply this workflow thinking to make it just a little bit smoother, more efficient, or even just more enjoyable?
I love that challenge. Don't be afraid to get creative. Experiment a little.
Exactly. And be sure to share your workflow discoveries with us. We'd love to hear about the creative ways you're bringing more structure and efficiency to your world. Until next time, happy workflow hunting, everyone.